Hi guys, how's it going? Isn't this picture just the most adorable thing you ever saw? I mean, I'm a real raccoon here, and I really got a kitty in my arms, and I really walked into a building this way. Pretty bizarre. And it'd be neat to know the story behind this picture. Now, I just wanted to show you guys this. Uh, I've got a journal I want to share with you though, and I believe this is the more appropriate way to do that. This is Gaia in all of her fiery magnetic glory. And even with the third eye. Let's have some fun, huh? Now, this is a pretty heavy-duty journal. They all feel strange anymore in their own way. Why we're not so responsible. The overall strategy of the bad guys. Here we go. For decades, I hand wrote these journals. The new video thing, sharing them this way, is only just 2 years old now. Started in December of 2009. And actually, I didn't keyboard or type them either. They were all handwritten using pencil. And oh, how particular I was about my pencils back then. Writing instruments are really important to writers. And boy, I really would write too. I have one set of journals in a binder, one of those heavy cardboard accounting ones that is about 5 inches thick. I kid you not. I'll show it in a video sometime when I'm not hiding or playing with my video toys. Now, what's amazing about that? It covers only 1 month. July of 2008. Now, okay, that was unusual, I'll admit. It's not the rule, but the exception. Still, you get my point. Writing them out was really my thing. This computer stuff is quite different. In some ways, it's much better since I'm a fast typist, and that helps. Still, heart doesn't go on a time cycle. Time doesn't exist in there. If I was journaling from mind, then this electronic way would be far superior, simply because it's so much faster. But these journals don't originate there. They come from heart. So heart had no struggle, no trouble at all keeping pace with the pencil running across the binder paper. Yeah, I like the lines. Those were good times. Journaling is heart work, and any heart work is adorable, delightful for the one in heart. Now, heart work may be singing. It may be hiking, rock collecting, collecting bugs, researching of some kind. Just so it isn't totally given over to mind, it can be heart work. Just so heart is our first loyalty, our home base. Then, wherever we're led is just fine. For me, heart work is truth, being led to that. Now, to me, truth and love are one and the same, both divine attributes of Source. So that and integration of my whole entire being across time, space, dimensions, etc., these two are my main focuses in life now. I go by the joy flame. It's a spark of internal delight that leads me on. I was so grateful to hear through Barbara Marciniak the Pleiadians emphasize the importance of joy in all of our lives. They agree with me, it appears, that following our joy or bliss is the very best way to live. It seems to bring us alive in ways that nothing else can. So I suppose that should be obvious. Most of us don't see it, though. To those locked in mind, no such thing can be obvious. Heart things just don't compute to the mind. Heart sense and mind sense are two different things, different perspectives entirely on life. One is enlivening, one is soul numbing, like a walking sleep. That's how it seems to me anyway. I trust that those in mind right now won't see this, but I don't know what can be done about that. The reality is that there's nothing any of us can do that will enlighten or enliven another. Waking up is very much a do-it-yourself thing. If one becomes enlightened to something, it was because they found that within themselves. It can't be given to someone else. They have to find it inside. If what is being offered is true and real, if it is of truth, then it can be found within any of us. Heart is the sanctuary for truth in 3D. Thank God we all have hearts, huh? Oh, I don't know though. Not everyone does, from what I've heard. There are certainly androids, clones, maybe even robots walking about. Supposedly, even some races have so lost contact with heart they don't believe in it anymore. One of these is among the gray races, the Zeta Reticulans. They don't have emotion either, a very gray sort of landscape, even inside, it seems. Now, we can't yet know these things factually, since honesty and truth are not what our world is founded on these days. Truth is strictly hidden away, while lies are peddled as honest truth. Yeah, sure. As long as the powers that were had us corralled pretty well into left brain, that worked, but not anymore. Far too many of us are awakening and leaving the prison that mind has become in favor of the freedom of heart. We're finding that truly the kingdom is within. The dark ones got away with so much due to our simple complacency. Now, some want to point the finger of blame at mankind for this, for letting the world get into this state. Well, this journal is to take a step back and take another look at that. I think what's been going on is quite different, just about 180 degrees off. So here's what I see happening, and I apologize if there's some repetition in my ideas here. I may have said this before, but I trust when it comes up again in the flow that there is simply more to be said. So, first of all, I hold the belief that beliefs create. I find support in quantum physics for this in both the double slit experiment and the observation problem results. These show or give evidence, not proof, that we sort of see things into being, so to speak. When not looking, it's a wave. Only on looking does it become a particle. You see? What the observation problem points to, and again, not proof, just pointing, is that there is no objective reality out there. If the experimenter influences the outcome of his work just by viewing it, even mechanically, via a camera, then the subject and the object are not separate. The scientist is somehow in control of what he observes. Well, at any rate, he affects it. He changes it. Now, if his will can act on it, then how are they separate? Thus, there is some scientific foundation for this way that I see, for some of the beliefs I choose to hold. Not that I really rely on or need science to back me up. I'm happy to go my own way wherever that leads. So I see that belief creates, thus making us all creators to one extent or another. Now, part of this effect is that our beliefs place blinders on our ability to see anything contrary to them. We get what we expect to a very great extent, in other words. We somehow seem to magnetize that. Now, lest some speak up for the current fashion of the law of attraction, it is not that. Clearly, if that worked, then our focus on our desires would bring them all to us, and that doesn't happen. There is much misunderstanding in The Secret and such other work. Our beliefs, for the most part, are not conscious. They are subconscious, maybe also unconscious. With the full reign of our conscious mind being only 7% of the whole, well, that's minuscule. Clearly, the conscious mind is no storage facility. It's too limited. And also, clearly, we don't and can't know the self having ready access to less than 1/10 of it. Self-knowledge is not a property of mind, but rather of one's deep inner being or heart. The kind of knowing a Christ or a Buddha calls one to is not a mental knowing, but a deeper one. While this should be obvious, it isn't to those still trapped within mind. So I'll call on Einstein's statement that we must move away from the level of any problem if we wish to solve it. The solution doesn't reside on the same level with the problem. I guess what I'm saying really is that mind is the major problem in life these days. By such slavish reliance on mind, we've managed to put the world into its current state. However, back to my initial proposition and my explanation of how I see that things work so that I can make this proposition. The second thing that must be seen then, in addition to the fact that beliefs create, is that our subconscious beliefs are what is largely responsible for the current state of our life. And that simply follows. Since beliefs create, especially when paired with feeling or emotion, then the creating we do issues largely from the subconscious. And so we have little conscious access to it. No wonder we find ourselves working at cross purposes with ourselves. No wonder we don't get what we want, what we consciously want. Apparently, in the subconscious, there are other ideas about it. Okay, so I've laid the basic groundwork for my proposition, which is this. The powers that were are using mankind, much like puppets, to create the state of the world that they want, that is most beneficial for them and their aims. That is the proposition. And thus, mankind is much less responsible for the current state of affairs than most of us believe. By their total domination of society, including the media, the economies of the world, the education system, the legal systems, etc., they quite control most of what happens on the planet, including the governments. How do they get their way? Why are things in this mess? Well, what is their desire? Let's start there. Their desire is the total enslavement of the race, and they'd like it to be permanent, so they work toward that. Having no morals or values that we would recognize as ethical, they do literally anything to get their way. Now, they must be fed. Their food, in addition to human bodies, some of them dine on that, blood and other byproducts, is energetic. They survive on negative energy, most of them, such as anger and fear. Thus, in order to be fed, they must somehow generate these in the so-called dominant species on the planet, mankind. Now, we are not that, but they let us go on thinking we are the dominant species since it works to their advantage. They could care less. If this could be seen and understood, it would explain so very much. from before birth, we are programmed by the system they've designed, since our parents and our lineage before them were also programmed. The natural working of our bodies is interfered with in every way possible, too, starting with vicious vaccination programs for infants and moving on up with age. Everything has been made toxic: air, food, soil, water. And even the airwaves carry their toxic load for the media. Now, if mankind is truly the livestock for these supposedly advanced races, why would they be trying to poison us, one might ask? And the answer is surprisingly simple, at least part of the answer. They don't want us awakening to our true state, which is actually more divine than human. They don't want us moving into harmony and peace, for then their whole food supply would be endangered. With what could be termed a full awakening, that is, ascension into higher dimensions, this would also result in the removal for those whose physical substance or food is the bodies of mankind. Okay, now, given this is difficult information, and it's no fun to write either, still, now I take that back. It's always fun to journal. It's just more difficult. Still, if there is truth there, then it deserves to be said so that others can decide for themselves. We have been bamboozled into believing that we are at the top of the food chain on Earth, and I posit to you that it just isn't so. These beings laugh at us for holding such beliefs, which they support, by the way. They don't want us waking up to their manipulation and control strategies, not even to their existence behind the scenes. This goes a long way to explain the extreme levels of secrecy and covert activity on the planet. It explains many things, but only if you can accept it enough to at least consider it. Naturally, I would ask that you evaluate from heart, the home of intuition and discernment. Mind has largely been taken captive and is under the control of these alien beings, in league with those at the top of the control structure on the planet, those I call the powers that were. Now, to return to my argument or premise, I said that what is true is roughly 180 degrees opposite to what is peddled today as truth. We are harangued and told how terrible we all are for letting things get to this state. We are told, too, that we are unimportant accidents of evolution, only recently having arisen from the primitive ape. We are told our lives hold no real or deep meaning, but are just random and quite inconsequential. What a load of crap. For a long time, we let this message go forth. Heck, we even peddled it ourselves since we accepted and believed it. This sort of thing is what the quote-unquote educational system in the U.S., where we send our children to be programmed, is based on. Overt lies and outdated science are all a part of the public school curriculum. Advertising has even made its way into the classroom. If we would just, for an instant, drop out of our left brain focus and enter the heart, we could have another look at all of this. And I promise you, the perspective will be quite different. You may not even recognize that we're looking at the same thing. First of all, mankind has been duped and largely taken over. It's been quietly done, since heavy-handed repression just brings on overt rebellion eventually. So the work has been covert and strictly hidden away of necessity. Working on a need-to-know basis, only the barest minimum number know much at all about the whole picture, which is jealously guarded by those at the very top. Even their chiefs and CEOs are kept in the dark. The sad reality is that those really in charge of the planet know very well that belief is the creative energy and that it's enhanced by emotion. Using that knowledge, they get and keep mankind in a perpetual state of fear, dis-ease, and agitation. It's been built into the very society and the way that it runs. Money is the main control mechanism used to manipulate the rest. Thus, for their benefit, mankind as livestock produces a very great crop of fear, anger, depression, anxiety, and all of the negative energies or emotions. If you want to know how it's maintained, it's done in many ways, but the main instrument has been the television and commercialism. Ads are everywhere, and they are heavily laced with subliminals. But it's through all of our technology, too. All of it. Everything in this society manipulates, and it's designed for that. Again, with only the strictest few at the very top being aware of this overall design, of the base intention behind it all. Many middlemen would not participate if they only knew. The ones in the world who seem to wield power, they don't really. They, even more than others, are also strictly under control. They end up being no more than puppets in the hand of the evil overlords. I know, it gets to sounding like cheap science fiction, doesn't it? And heck, I expect that's in the plan too. Just like ridicule and abuse are hurled at those who see UFOs or are abducted or even contactees and then dare to tell of it, so it is with those who point to any level of the secretive conspiracies we're surrounded by. The word conspiracy has been paired with the word theory just to scorn, poke fun, undercut it, and make it seem ridiculous. And I just watched something since I wrote this that I'm going to put in as a link that will support what I'm saying here. As complacent livestock or cattle, we went along with all of this while it was growing into the behemoth that it is today. Nose to the grindstone for most of us. We were too controlled by the scarcity of dollars in our lives to risk making any waves or even to have time to look into such things. And they were made to seem patently ridiculous anyway, so why bother, right? Wrong. Those days are quite gone. Witness even just the arising of the Occupy movement and its ability to touch the pulse of mankind today. We're quite fed up. Excuse me. We're checking out of things as they've always been. That excuse doesn't wash anymore. We're demanding answers, and in greater and greater numbers. We're refusing the hogwash they give us. We're digging into and finding solid evidence that these conspiracies are fact, not theory at all. Some of us are even listening to this, hard as it is, being still stuck in the mind prison. So, my contention is, quite simply, that the powers that were are those responsible for the mess we've got going here. We do bear some responsibility, but nothing whatsoever like that being dumped on us as the main causes of it, being mankind. We are not. It was engineered by those in power to be just this way. Further, the powers that were have access to and use such technology as we can't even dream of yet. They use this against us on a regular basis. They set out to intentionally do harm. Well, duh. They have no shame. Many of them are soulless beings, clones or androids. Many among us are alien half-breeds as well. I'm still not sure what to think of that, but they're here. Of that there is no doubt to any half-serious researcher with an open mind. Now, why would they be blaming us this way, you might ask? Why might they want us under a heavy burden of guilt and shame? Can you see how it makes us that much easier to manipulate, for one? It also makes us not want to look up from the grindstone to really look into things. It's too depressing, and supposedly it's all our fault. Guilt and shame are also good food for these alien vampires. So, there's the whole mess of it. What do you think? How far has your research into such things come? Do you have any agreement with any of my points? It's quite a mess, sure. So, what's on the upside of this unholy drama? What are its saving graces? Well, I think we'll be laughing when we get to the other side, or into higher dimensions, whichever comes first, to find that we more or less hired them to do this. Being the light beings we are, we couldn't bring ourselves to do such things, yet they simply needed to happen. Why is that? To help mankind wake up. We had been quite put to sleep. I know, sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, don't give up yet, there's more. We all know that overall, or underneath everything, somehow everything is really all one. You recognize that in some way, don't you? In the oneness, we also know that Source, Divinity, God, whatever you call it, is omnipresent, meaning present everywhere, no exceptions. Well, that means even in them, in the bad guys, the powers that were. Yeah, God is there too. Well, what's with that, you say? Remember now, 3D is a play. This isn't really you down here in this body-mind thing you're driving around. It's more like an avatar in a game than it is your real being. You and I and everyone with a soul are really divine beings. No kidding. We have but the tiniest slice of our divine self manifesting here in this grand drama of 3D. Just consider, how many lifetimes do you think you've had? Quite a few, right? Well, add to that the reality that in each of them you're also multidimensional, and you begin to get just a bit more sense of the fullness of your being. Honey, you're the real deal. You're little g creator God. This is truly just a game, just a play to you, the real you. You just forgot. We're really good game players, you see. We really get into our roles, and there's the kick. By getting into the role just a wee bit too much, we actually fell. We fell down, the fall perhaps, into it. That means we identified with our part. And this can happen to actors anytime they get into it too much, go over the edge for a while. And they can lose the self like that, lose touch with it anyway, because obviously you can't lose who you really are. So that's been the rub. We got too interested in this stuff, believe it or not. If we'd just maintained our point of poise and balance in between, maintaining the divine presence while also being aware of the play, we would have been fine. We wouldn't have tumbled down into this thing and spent millions of years running around trying to find ourself. I mean, come on, that's too strange, you know? And yet now here we stand on the portal at the very gate, at the edge of waking up again, returning to who and what we really are, And that sounds so very good to most of us right now. So very nice. Well, that's just what we're doing. From the looks of it, it appears that a whole bunch of extra light beings volunteered to come down into the show here to lend a hand. We've been kind of close to this before, but always previously the powers that were had too much power and they cut it off. They didn't let it happen. I guess maybe we all got together up on the other side, there in the light, and had our own major powwow. Long ago, we made our plans up there. We saw how the only way we were really going to be able to influence things strongly enough on this world is to actually incarnate here. And my God, what a big sacrifice that has been for so many of us. Still, it was the only way. Otherwise, when we tried to help from the outside, we had the whole cosmic law thing of non-interference in the way. And mankind were way too dense to see us and cooperate. Plus, beyond a certain point, they were just too dense or sluggish, too sleeping. Even if we could get through, there wasn't enough presence in them to make and hold a connection with us in light. So, I don't know how many years ago, but we started our rounds of incarnating here. And for many of us, we really didn't need to do this, not to win our own freedom anyway. That was already done. You never know when one of your friends might be a Buddha or something in disguise. No joke. It really could be. It's so funny, too, because they even forgot it. Well, maybe that's not quite so funny just now, but soon again it will be when we're having our victory party up yonder, there in 5D or wherever we wound up. Anyway, that's how I see it. I've put various bits, parts, and pieces of this vision into other journals as the understandings arose, but I don't think I've put it all together like this, though. And I know it won't be the journal for everyone. I can hear various ones complain about this or that aspect of what I'm saying. Still, I even look forward to that. Don't be afraid to disagree with me in the comments you leave, okay? I want you to know that I truly welcome them, just so it's done respectfully. No need to get nasty, as some tend to do. God bless them, but some are just too arrogant to converse, too convinced that they are right. It's pretty strange how separated out we've become. Now, all we need to do is some final getting together, my friends. We're waking up all over the place and wiping the sleep out of our eyes. We're helping each other look at things from way different angles. When we're willing to do that, we can compare what our heart feelings are about what they present. And that's what I'm hoping to get here. People sharing their own heart feelings about this or that point or part, and that's simply awesome. We all have this oneness in heart and access to divinity there. Who cares how it works? It just does, and it's totally accessible. If you've got a being, if you've got a soul, you've got this access. Deep in heart, we all know what's what. Being the one, at some level, we even know everything. Now, you let me know when you figure out how to access that one, okay? Give us the key and we'll meet you there. Meanwhile, we can adjust our course based on what heart has to say about all this that we're finding out and sharing. Let's keep passing the word, sharing the good links. It's helping to wake a lot of us up. Heck, those that are ready, all it takes is a tap on the shoulder by someone more awake. There's an energy we share somehow. Don't quite know how it operates, just that it works. It helps and it's beneficial. God, folks, we are so blessed. It's purely amazing, really it is. Things might look like crap or even crap warmed over on the outside, but that's really nothing to us. When you're divine, well, you're divine. That says it all. We are untouchable, unbeatable, and undefeated, so long as we get up the 100th time, even though we've been knocked down 99. We were winning from the beginning. The biggest surprise of all may be the unmasking, the self-remembering, the unveiling of those playing the darker parts. I suspect that at least some of them are light beings of such high order that they had the courage and the gumption to take on such god-awful roles in the grand drama. So let's be getting rid of every last bit of any prejudice at all against absolutely any part of life. That includes reptilians, zeta reticulans, and yuck, I've got my work cut out there still, and even beings like Satan or Lucifer. Now listen, they are either light beings in very good disguise, or they are not, and they may not be. Meanwhile, they are still a part of the source or God that I worship and revere. I refuse to condemn them. If Source had some business creating such things, then I'm going to totally assume Source knows what the heck she is doing. I'm going to be open and listening. Can you go there with me? If you can't, please don't proselytize here, okay? Just know that I'm not interested in being convinced that some scripture or some religion is more right. That's just not an approach I'm going to welcome. Now, if you're coming to me from heart, I'm open to that. But you may have noticed I have a largely different understanding of heart than most do, and that's what I mean. It doesn't mean if you're just sincere in your beliefs. Wow, amazing. I don't even know what to say about this journal, my friends. I'm almost afraid to go back and read it over, and I didn't. Writing it was an amazing experience in just stepping back and enabling the flow. I'm going to have to go back and see if I even agree with all of this. Oh my God, it's so very funny at this point. Hilarious. So if you're still with me, then no doubt you at least have a good sense of humor. If you don't, go journal it out before coming back to give me a hard time. You can at least make your comments funny, okay? Love and light, everyone. Good day.